Welcome to the 5-Star Retirement Show with Patrick Mueller, best-selling co-author of Dare to Succeed and president of Bella Advisors. Today, he'll be sharing his 5-star retirement formula, including lifetime income planning, investment planning, tax planning, healthcare planning, and legacy planning. Here's Chris Monroe and Patrick Mueller.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into 5-Star Retirement. We're going to help you retire better, or if you're already in retirement, we're going to help you make the most of it. I'm your co-host, Chris Monroe, alongside Patrick Mueller, who has all the talent, all the brains, all the looks. He's the guy that's really going to answer the bulk of your questions here because he has got the experts with Bella Advisors. Howdy.
How you doing?
I'm great, man. How you been?
You good, man? You're looking good yourself, man. You look like you could solve the world's problems
You know,
as well.
I actually put on a collared shirt today, which for radio guys is a big deal. You know,
It is. You're shocking everyone. You're shocking everyone today.
Well, glad to be back with you. Today we're going to talk about retirement 1 year in. You know, a lot of times we talk about, of course, leading up to retirement and what we need to do to help people get there and actually pull the trigger and make that big decision. But a lot of questions today about once you're in retirement, are there things that you need to do to maximize tax breaks or to make sure that your income is steady and that kind of thing? So, of course, when somebody gets ready to retire, I mean, even when we're younger, we kind of envision that day, and then we get down to 15 years, 10 years, 5 years, and then there's a lot of buildup. What am I going to do? And maybe there's a lot of planning. Maybe there wasn't a lot of planning. So once people have gotten to that retirement point, and let's say it's a year after, talk about some adjustments that people might need to make, once they're in retirement.
One thing, and this is, I just met with this client that had just retired about a year ago, and he was probably in his early 70s. And he really didn't have a plan for what he was going to do after he left this company. And you can just tell that, he looks like he's aged. I don't even know. I wouldn't tell him this to his face.
That's not supposed to happen. That's not supposed to happen in retirement.
But it looked like I was concerned. And
Really?
I talked to his wife about it. And I was like, man, he just looked like he has aged so much since the last year because he's been used to keeping himself busy and keeping his mind active. And he doesn't really have any hobbies or anything to be doing. And so... But they have figured out a way to spend a whole lot of money. I'll tell you that they planned on spending about $80,000, and they spent about $140,000 in their first year in retirement. So that idle time can equal more money out of your pocket, which can change things. So we had some really good things to be talking about. And I also see people that keep a super busy calendar. They wonder even how they worked. Once they're retired, and
right.
So it can be so different with different people.
How old were they at that point?
He's in his, I want to say he was 72.
Okay.
When he retired, and his wife is a few years younger than he is.
Are you seeing that more now, a later retirement for a lot of people, or is that what's the trend been?
Really all over the place.
Really?
I mean, I have some people that are trying to retire in their early 50s, and then, which is
I used to think
wonderful.
that I might do that one day too. That's not looking likely.
Keep hope alive.
Keep hope alive.
Keep hope
Thanks
alive,
to
Chris.
you, and I need more help. I need more help from Bella Advisors and 5-Star Retirement. So, we talk about being in retirement for a year, and I guess that is, determine what's working and what's not working. And obviously, if you've budgeted to spend $80,000 and you spend almost twice that, it's probably time to, look at something else.
Yeah, I'm like, that's why we get, we only work with people who are retired or who are pretty close to retiring. And so we make it mandatory. We got to be getting together at least once every 12 months. Because of that reason. It can be like herding cats because they're all over the place. There's nothing keeping them here, so they're traveling across the world. They're visiting grandkids. They're
doing what they should do in retirement, which is enjoy.
Exactly.
However, it's probably easy to take the eye off the ball. I'm retired now. I don't have to really think about this stuff.
Yeah.
So
then we got to tune in. We had 140,000 going out the door versus 80, and we got to figure out. Okay, we got to get serious here. Make sure that. Because my goal is not to help them, tell them how they need to be spending their money, right? But my goal is to make sure they're not going to outlive their money, and the plan we're putting together is going to be successful for them.
What about the amount of people that need to meet with a financial advisor? Would you suggest that all retirees have and continue to meet with a financial advisor even
Absolutely.
after retirement?
It's always great to have a good financial ally, somebody that's a good sounding board, somebody that's been through stuff that you haven't been through, because the first time that we do something is not typically the best time that we do it, no matter what it is. And that's why you see all these professional athletes, they all have coaches, because they have people that have been there before, train people how to be successful, and they can look at the things that you're doing that you're not realizing that you're doing. And it's not the thing that you know that gets you in a problem, it's the things that you don't know that you don't know. And those are the things that can hurt you. So that's why it's important to have somebody to kind of help guide you through that process of thinking through all the things that you need to be thinking about. And that's why we call the system that we use in the show, that's why we call it the 5-star retirement plan, because we got to make sure that we got a star for each one of the different areas of retirement planning that people need to be concerned about.
And maybe this hits a chord with you, strikes a chord with you, and you want to talk to Patrick and learn more about how you can maximize your retirement. Give Patrick a call at 770-545-8881 or bellaadvisors.com. And you're in Roswell, right?
We're in Roswell.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right up the 400 corridor there, and pretty easy to get to for anybody.
Yeah, super easy, super cozy.
Yeah.
It's great.
That's great, man.
We love it. We love it. It's our home base.
What about you talked about spending patterns, and that's probably something that people need to take a look at once they get into retirement, because it's probably easy to say, we got this pot of money, we're reducing our expenses somehow. And of course, I think a lot of people probably try to justify that. Well, I don't have the commute cost now. I don't have the dry cleaning cost. Of course, that's not a big deal as it used to be. But all these expenses that we don't have, it's probably easy to overspend once you get into that retirement mindset.
It's way easier because it's always easy to overspend. But when you're retired and every day is basically a Saturday, it's a free day, it can equal more money coming out of your pocket.
Oh man, that sounds nice.
And people, and people don't tend to realize that, but they tend to spend more money in retirement than they did before. But I mean, there are certain milestones where it can reduce expenses, and it's kind of a trade-off. Like if paying off the mortgage, hey, we paid off the mortgage, and maybe that money we're saving there is going to be going towards travel or going towards other things. But to think that you're going to spend less money in retirement, that's not usually what I see. It's usually completely the opposite.
Listen, I know if I had that kind of free time on my hands and I had some money sitting in the bank, I'd probably be spending some money. So good idea for people to examine those spending habits. Probably, I would say once a year, maybe at least with a financial advisor.
At least once every 12 months. You got to be tuning into it. But you can do it more frequently than that, once every quarter or semi-annually, but you definitely got to be tuning into it. So to make sure that whoever you're working with, that you didn't go and decide to buy, $100,000 RV or, like the couple I was just talking about.
That never happens, I'm sure, right?
They spent twice as much money as they
right.
anticipated in spending. So you got to tune in just to make sure that plan's not going to fail, that you're going to be on the right course.
And then correcting mistakes in retirement, and identifying and correcting those mistakes on a timely basis, because as you say, you start multiplying this over years, you start draining a nest egg in a hurry, and then what do you do?
Yeah, you got to be able to readjust. You got to be able to switch gears, and especially with what's going on right now in the markets, and when you're investing, a lot of times people have way too much money that's tied to the stock market. Where here we are in the longest bull run in stock market history, and all-time highs in history, and people are thinking like, well, you put your money in the stock market and it just goes up. But
they thought that in the 20s too.
It's a good philosophy until it doesn't. That's not the case anymore.
Yeah, it's a little bit scary. I mean, it's great to see the stock market where it's at, but you also know that anybody that's been around for any number of years knows that it can go back the other way.
Yeah.
What about Social Security and the strategy? And of course, most people need to formulate the strategy before you start taking Social Security, whenever you decide to start taking it, whether it's early or at your full retirement age. Is there anything after you've done that people can do? Is that something you need to re-examine once you're in retirement?
As far as when you've taken your Social Security, and you can make changes on that?
Yeah, to make any sort of changes to that.
So typically, this just happened where somebody took out their Social Security early at age 62. So you can take it out early at 62. Your full retirement age, depending on when you were born, is somewhere between the age of 66 and 67. And then you can defer it up until age 70 and get them, and you can maximize your Social Security benefits that way.
But once they've done that, if they've already started, there's nothing else you can do.
They're locked in.
Right?
So you can stop it and you can repay the money back to Social Security because here's a problem.
That's not sounding
because if you take it early, and a lot of people don't realize this, there was this lady came out to one of our educational events at Georgia State, and she goes, I just took out my Social Security, and she didn't realize that if she makes more than $17,000 a year, that she's penalized on her Social Security benefits for every dollar over that she makes. And so they start reducing your Social Security benefits on how much you're going to get. So she was able to catch it early enough and then repay the money back to Social Security, and that way she could delay it until full retirement age. But once you reach full retirement age, you can make $1 million a year, and they don't care. It's if you take it prematurely, then they start penalizing you.
So you can take it at full retirement age and then make as much as you want to after that and still have that Social Security on the side.
That's another one of those things.
People, if you don't know, you don't know.
That's right.
And you make that mistake. Wow, that's amazing. Well, coming up in our next segment, we're going to be talking about tax implications and how you can make sure you're managing those once you're in retirement as well. Let's tell people how to get in touch with you and Bella Advisors if they need your help getting started in retirement planning or if they're already in retirement.
Yeah, if you're 5 to 10 years away from retiring or you're currently retired now, then the offer that we have for folks is to give us a call, schedule a time to come in, and we'll do a stress test and analysis for you on your current retirement plan, the way things look, and we'll give you our observations on what we see on each one of the stars in your retirement plan. So do you have a 1-star retirement plan, a 2-star retirement plan? I don't know. We'll figure that out, but there's no cost or obligation to this. Just give us a call here at 770-545-8881. Again, that's 770-545-8881, and we'll sit down and we'll take a look at your current situation, and we'll do an analysis and stress test for you to see where you're at and the path that you're on. But just give us a call, 770-545-8881.
And coming up in the next segment, as well as managing tax implications, let's revisit those 5 stars, because I think that's important too for people to understand your philosophy and what you do. Absolutely. All right, Patrick, we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. This is 5-Star Retirement. And welcome back to 5-Star Retirement. I'm your co-host, Chris Monroe, alongside Patrick Mueller of Bella Advisors and 5-Star Retirement. And let's talk about, before we get into the tax implications in retirement, let's talk a little bit about your philosophy and what the 5 stars mean.
Sure. So when it comes to retirement planning, a lot of times people just really think mainly about investments. But there's so much more to it than that we got to be tuning into. So the 5 stars, the first one we got to worry about is your income plan, which is how are you going to replace your paycheck when you're retired? Because you're basically unemployed for the next 25, 30 plus years. So it's all about income and that lifetime income. And then that ties into the investments. How much risk are you currently taking? How are those investments designed to help you accomplish what you need at this stage in your life? And then you want to take a look at fees. How much money are all these financial institutions pulling out of your portfolio every single quarter or month? And then you've got taxes, which we're about to talk about. So taxes, how do we keep that money in your pocket versus paying more than you should out to the government? Are you on the government's plan, or do you have your own plan?
Right.
And then we've got healthcare expenses. So whether it be health insurance or the big costs that can come down the road when it comes to home health care, assisted living, nursing home care. And then the 5th star is your legacy plan. What are you planning on leaving behind to your kids, grandkids, or is your legacy plan to spend it and enjoy it with them now? So we take a look at all 5 of those different pieces to make sure nothing's going to hurt you.
It's understandable. I love that. I love things that are simple and bullet pointed like that. It's a great philosophy, and it really puts into focus how much there is to think about. And like you said, most people just think, I'm putting money into my 401k, I'm putting some money over here in an IRA, and I'm okay. But man, there's a lot to think about.
There's so much more to it than people think that there
is.
And
most people don't know. I mean, unless you're in the financial planning business, you just don't know this stuff, because we aren't taught this stuff. Certainly not at school.
No, definitely not at school. There definitely should be a course on something like that.
Man.
And that's why we do so many educational events, is to educate folks on all this stuff and the importance of having a solid plan. Because most people's plan is, well, I've accumulated this big pile of money in my 401k or my IRA, and I'm just going to kind of reach in and take money out every single year. So there really isn't much of a plan there. There's not a whole lot of structure to it, and there's so many different variables that you got to take a look at.
That is a great segue, as a matter of fact, into our tax implication segment here. And topic number 1, traditional IRA and 401k withdrawals, and what that means for your taxation in retirement.
Well, a lot of people don't realize that when they're putting money into those IRAs and 401ks, they think they're saving money in taxes by doing that. But you're really not saving any money in taxes by doing that. you're only deferring having to pay the income taxes into the future. So that's why the government says, hey, at age 70 and a half, you've been deferring having to pay your income taxes too long, and you got to start. They start forcing you to take it out in what's called required minimum distributions. But when those things start coming out, it adds on, and you're taxed on it like ordinary income. So you've got your Social Security, maybe you got a pension, but then every dollar you're taking out of your 401k or your IRA is increasing your income level, and it can push you up into a higher tax bracket. So let me give you a quick example of something like that, when it comes to your Social Security benefits, you're not taxed on your Social Security benefits until you reach a certain amount of income. But then once you're over that certain amount of income, they start taxing your Social Security benefits. So if you're over, I want to say it's $34,000 as a couple, or you're taxed on 50% of your Social Security benefits as income now. And then when you're over $44,000, you're taxed on 85% of your Social Security benefits, where they count that as income. And not only do they count it as income, but then they tax you on it at your marginal tax rate. So your last dollar spent. So you're taking that money out of your 401k and your IRA, and if that pushed you up, say from a 12% tax bracket up to a 22% tax bracket, now your whole Social Security is taxed at 22% and not at the 12% like everything else was taxed at.
This is both kind of brain melting and infuriating because the government always finds a way to find more of your money. So basically, you could be taking money out of your savings, your 401k, and giving it to Uncle Sam in the form of taxes on the other side. Now,
so you're paying the taxes on, then they're causing you to tax your Social Security that's already paid.
Do you see why you need Patrick and you need Bella Advisors and you need to put a 5-star retirement plan in place? How do people get in touch with you? They don't want to go through these pitfalls. They don't want to make these mistakes, or perhaps they've already made some mistakes and they want to correct the course.
Yes, you want to give us a call, 770-545-8881. And we always have educational courses that are going on, whether it be at a university around town or at different restaurants, or if you're ready to schedule a time to come in and have us do an analysis and stress test on what's currently going on with your retirement plan. And we'll take a look and give you our observations on what it is that we see on the current path that you're on. Is it a good path? How much risk are you taking? Are things that we need to be paying attention to make sure that you're not going to have an issue in your retirement? But go to our website at bellaadvisors.com. Again, that's BELLA advisors.com. Or just give us a call here, 770-545-8881, and schedule a time to come in for a visit.
Yeah, and that's, people really need to come in for a visit. And we're in this online world today, which I love. I mean, I can say, Amazon, I want groceries in an hour, and I can hit one button, and it's there. But this is something that you really need to sit down with you face to face, and because this is so complicated, and you really need that face to face touch, don't you?
Yeah, because everybody tries to kind of bypass it digitally and go to a robo-advisor or something like that. But it's so much more than that we've got to be talking about and tuning into, because most people are not helping you do real planning. Most people are just trying to figure out how to invest your money and make money off of that.
What about pension income? You talked about Social Security could be taxed. Now, is that, we talked in the last segment about once you reach your full retirement age, you're not taxed on Social Security no matter how much you make. Is that correct?
Well, they're not going to penalize you on your benefits.
Okay, okay.
So if you're making too much income,
so this is a difference
full retirement age.
The penalty versus taxes implications.
Yeah.
Do you see how? I mean, this is confusing.
It's so confusing.
It's. I mean, to be able to pick this apart.
But the good thing is we help take all this complex stuff and make it really simple. If you're good at what you do, you can take that complex stuff, make it super simple to understand and be able to formulate a plan. And you, most of the time you see the opposite of that. You listen to folks and they try to make things so complex that you feel like you need them. Like, oh man, this is so frustrating and complex that I really need their help.
I have a friend of mine, he talks about teachers, and there's two types of teachers. There's one that loves to see the light bulb come on, and this is teachers of kids or adults or anybody. And then there's the other person that wants to be the smartest person in the room.
Oh, I like that.
And
yeah, that's so true.
You're a true teacher is that you want to help people. You want them to understand all of this time and money that they've put into their lives and their retirements, to get the most out of it. What about pension income, Patrick? Is that something that's taxable in retirement?
It is. It's taxable just like your 401ks and your IRAs, where every dollar that comes in, you're taxed on it like ordinary income. So that can be a good option, that if you have the option to take it out as a lump sum, a lot of times it's better to take it out as a lump sum, because then you can start converting over that taxable money over to something that's going to be tax-free over time. And you can actually put a tax strategy together, which is if you just decide to, hey, I'm going to take this pension option, then you're taking away a lot of the tax strategies that you could possibly have available to you. Not that that would be a bad thing to take a pension. I don't have a single person I've ever met that would say, hey, yeah, I don't like that pension money coming in every single month.
Yeah, I don't need that. That's all right.
But there are ways that we can create that income and put tax strategies together if you do it that way.
What about, I guess some people have they have a full portfolio. You have 401k, you have an IRA, but then you have just a traditional brokerage account that's outside of any sort of retirement vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
You still, if you're making withdrawals from that, you're still paying capital gains taxes and that kind of thing, right? I would assume.
And here's a big one that a lot of folks don't know is that if you have, say, tax-exempt bonds, all right, so if you're getting municipal bonds and you're thinking that you're not having to pay the money on the taxes, well, they take the interest that you are making on that, and they count that towards that Social Security income threshold that I was talking about earlier, where it causes you to be taxed on your Social Security benefits. So somebody could have a big portfolio and think that they're saving money in taxes, but that strategy is actually causing them to be taxed on their Social Security benefits.
I bet because they learned that from somebody who told them somewhere that it might be a good idea. But, and
that's the worst kind of advice, or the most expensive kind of advice is free advice.
Absolutely. And, let's face it, a lot of people are not a teacher. They are a salesperson. They're trying to sell a particular investment vehicle, whether it's a bond, a muni bond or an annuity, and sometimes those come with major pitfalls.
And that's a big problem is that that's what you have in my industry is you basically have, if we're thinking about baking, you got three categories. You got your life goals and what you want to have happen. And then the next category, you got recipes. And then the third category, you got ingredients to make that happen. And pretty much what you have in my industry is you got a bunch of ingredient salesmen just trying to sell you why their ingredients are better than somebody else's. But, how are those ingredients good for the recipe that you got? And how is it helping you bake what it is that you really want?
All you got to think about is the 70s plaid coat car salesman. Hey, what would it take to put you in this investment today?
Exactly.
And literally you want somebody who's going to take the time to teach you and to guide you and not just be out to try to maximize their profit on you. And, and that's why I love what you're doing. I love the 5-star approach. How can people get in touch with you, Patrick, if they want to, get in and get an appointment with you?
Yeah. If you're within 5 to 10 years from retiring or you're already retired, then the offer that we have for folks today is to give us a call, schedule a time to come in, and we'll sit down and we'll do a stress test and analysis for you and see what your retirement looks like. And is it a 5-star retirement plan or do you got a 1-star retirement plan? So we'll figure that out and we'll give you our observations on what it is that we see on the current path that you're on. And then there's going to be problems, and these would be problems that we would be fixing if we were you. This is absolutely free of charge. We don't charge anything for this. We think that everybody should understand where they're at in the current path that they're on, whether we feel like we're a good fit to work with each other or not. But you can give us a call here at 770-545-8881. Again, that is 770-545-8881. Schedule a time to come in for a visit, and we'll sit down and we'll discuss your personal situation and give you clarity on where you're currently at. But you got to take the action. Call us. 770-545-8881.
All right. Thank you, Patrick. We will be back in just a couple of moments. We'll be talking about Social Security here on 5-Star Retirement. And welcome back to 5-Star Retirement. I'm your host, Chris Monroe, alongside Patrick Mueller of Bella Advisors and BellaAdvisors.com. And the 5-Star Retirement Guide, we talked about them in the last segment. And of course, we'll continue to go over those. And so many things, Patrick, that folks have to think about, whether they're planning for retirement or whether they're in retirement and they need a coach and they need someone to help them through. And that's why I love what you're doing so much. We've talked a little bit about Social Security. Of course, it's a big part. And for some people, it may be the only piece of retirement they have, sadly. I'm hearing that more and more, that have not put a lot of money away. And we're finding that with baby boomers. I was reading some stuff about how many people have very little to no retirement savings, or it's either been squandered by illnesses or unemployment or something like that. So those people, of course, Social Security planning is even more important. But let's talk about the 10 ways that we can help boost Social Security, just maximizing those benefits. And we'll just go down the sheet here. And what it says is work 35 years.
Yeah. So what Social Security does is they take your best 35 working years, and that's how they calculate how you're going to get they're going to calculate your benefits. So a lot of times your later working years, I mean, hopefully this is the case, that you're earning more money in your later working years than you were when, for an example, you were like 20. So a lot of times those later working years are adding much more value to your Social Security benefits than maybe a lot of folks might realize.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Number 2, work longer, or I guess don't retire so early.
Mm-hmm. And some people need to. Some people can afford to retire earlier, right? It's about how good have they been being frugal and saving and what do they really got. But the longer that you defer your Social Security, I mean, each year that you're deferring it past your full retirement age, you're getting an 8% increase in that lifetime income. So that's a huge deal, especially, it's all based on longevity.
If we thought about that as an investment, that's a pretty good return every year.
That's pretty solid.
Yeah.
It's hard to beat that. But you're getting that 8% return, and that's a lifetime. They need to think of, Social Security and just change the name of it to your lifetime income amount.
Yeah. Well, and I guess that, when the number 2 being work longer, for some people that can retire at 50 that have, $1 billion in the bank in investments, that's one thing. But for, they can retire early and then wait to take Social Security later on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's different for somebody that may not have, what if someone has to, they need to take it early? They don't have any other, is there any way to maximize that? You're just kind of stuck with what pretty much. But if you have a spouse, sometimes that can help with your strategies where maybe one spouse continues to work and the other one turns on their Social Security benefits. So for an example, let's say, there's a husband and wife, the husband's working, and he decides he's going to work until age 70 and turn on his benefits at age 70. And then the wife decides that she wants to turn her benefits on at full retirement age, which is maybe like 66. And so she can turn her benefits on, delay his benefits up until age 70. And there's actually a spousal benefit that a lot of people don't realize that is there for them. But he could turn on his benefits at age 70, and maybe half of his benefits she could file on, and she could actually get a higher amount at age 70 by turning on the spousal benefits because he's filing later. This is how good this guy is. Number 3 on my list was sign up for spousal benefits. That was honestly number 3 was the next thing. So I think you talked about that. But of course, if you're single or if you're widowed, then.
And this is the thing, too, where there was a widow who came in last week, and she didn't realize that she could be receiving widow benefits on her husband's Social Security benefits early. So she could start it early and then delay her benefits much later. So the strategy that we put together for her is she started her benefits. She was actually able to start them at age 60. She's like 58 or 59 now, and she's able to turn on those spousal benefits at age 60, and she can file on his benefits, and she can delay hers up until age 70 and then turn her full benefits on at age 70. So if you're a widow, a lot of times maybe somebody has been divorced, and if you were married over 10 years, then you're entitled to half of your ex's Social Security benefits. So that can be a thing, too, where maybe sometimes people don't realize that they have those options for them, but you really do. So you got those spousal benefits where maybe one spouse was working and one spouse was not working, and you don't realize that you're entitled to half of your spouse's benefits.
And I think that speaks, Patrick, to the fact that if people stay in the dark about this could cause them financial stress and hardship.
Big time. Well, especially in those situations where one spouse is, unless you're going out like Romeo and Juliet, one spouse is predeceasing the other.
Right.
And the ladies tend to outlive us men. And that's a big deal, is what's going to be left for the spouse if one spouse predeceases the other, and what's going to happen with that loss of income, and then how do you replace that? So these are the things that we try to get people thinking about, because it's not fun stuff to think about.
It's not, but it's one of those things that if you don't think about it, it is inevitable, and it's something to think about. Number 4 was receive spousal benefits while working, and I guess you touched a little bit on that.
Mm-hmm. And again, you can, so one of these strategies got changed a couple of years ago where one spouse could file and suspend and keep working, and then the other spouse could claim half of their benefits. And unfortunately, they took away that strategy a couple of years ago. But it doesn't stop, maybe one spouse from filing on their personal Social Security benefits and then being able to take a spousal benefit later on down the road.
Number 5, receive a dependent benefit.
I don't know what that means.
If you retire but have dependents under age 19, they're entitled up to 50% of your benefit.
Yep, exactly. So if that is the case, and then you have small children, then you can start receiving 50% of those benefits early to help support the kid while they're still in school until they reach a certain age. So that's a great benefit that a lot of people don't realize it's there.
That's another one that was probably most people don't know that's there. So number 6, monitor earnings and don't exceed what's allowed each year in that Social Security. End up having to pay a portion of future benefits withheld until you reach full retirement. And we talked about that in segment 1.
That's right. So if you take your benefits early before, most people's retirement age, depending on when they were born, are between age 66 and 67. So it could be like 66 and 3 months or 4 months, whatever your full retirement age is. But each year, not only are you taking it before then, are you getting an 8% decrease in your lifetime income amount, but if you take it early, they cap you off on how much you can earn if you're still working. So if you're still working and you make over $17,000 a year, they start penalizing you on those future benefits. So that's a big thing. When people think they want to be taking Social Security early, they're going to start a new business or do a side project or whatever they're going to do, and they don't realize they're going to get penalized and all that stuff.
The government always gets their money, don't they?
They do.
Avoid a tax bracket bump, which I guess can happen pretty easily for some people.
You can easily get bumped up into a higher tax bracket. A lot of people think that they're going to be, and kind of why we sold on putting money into IRAs and 401ks and those types of programs is that, well, defer paying your taxes now, and you'll be in a lower tax bracket when you retire. And that was kind of the whole story, but that is just, unfortunately, that's just not the case.
It just doesn't happen that way.
Because if somebody's got a big IRA or 401k and you're taking your money out of that, then that alone can be causing you to be bumped up into a higher tax bracket and to be paying taxes on your Social Security benefits. And it kind of causes this chain reaction of different taxes that you got to start paying.
Apply for survivor benefits is number 8.
So
you talked a little bit about that.
So we just talked about that, that if one spouse predeceases the other, then the other one's got those survivor benefits. So you can start filing on their Social Security benefits. So if you're a widow, there's benefits you're entitled to as a survivor. So you just gotta meet with somebody that understands the stuff, because we're talking about all this different stuff and all these different strategies. And for a couple between the ages of 62 and 70, there's over 590 plus ways that you can file for Social Security benefits. I mean, leave it to the government to make things so incredibly complicated, and then they can't give you advice on what the best strategy is for you to take when you go into the office and sit down with them. So it's good that there are folks like myself that's out there that will help people figure all this stuff out to figure out what the best strategy is going to be.
I'm looking at this mental picture right now, and it's kind of like trying to walk across a field that has landmines buried in it everywhere, and trap doors, and those nets like in the cartoons that go, they scoop you up.
That's right.
I mean, literally, this is what Patrick does, is he helps you avoid all of that. I mean, there's so many ways you can do things the wrong way and cost yourself a lot. I mean, you work every day. A lot of people work 60, 70 hours a week to put this money away for your family. You don't want to give it away to the government.
Exactly.
You've already given away enough of your money to the government.
That's why you got to be working with somebody that just specializes in working with folks that are retired, because the rules are just so much different than when you're accumulating for your retirement and you're putting your money away. It's so much different when you're taking your money out. It's just kind of like
when it's going the other way.
It's like, Mount Everest. Most people don't die on the way to the top of the mountain. Most people, unfortunately, they die on the way down for a bunch of other different reasons. And it's kind of the same thing as far as an analogy. I mean, you want to have a good financial Sherpa that's like, okay, here's how you get back down. Here's not only how you get up the mountain,
how you get back down,
but more importantly, here's how you get down the mountain safely.
Well, how do people get in touch with you, Patrick, and get set up with you an appointment so that they can not get into these landmines?
It's so easy. You just got to pick up the phone and give us a call and schedule a time to come in. Give us a call at 770-545-8881. Again, that is 770-545-8881. Give us a call and come in and schedule time, and we'll do your free stress test and analysis for you to help give you an understanding of where you're at in your 5-star retirement and how many stars do you currently have in your retirement plan, and we'll help you figure that stuff out. And you can also go to our website, bellaadvisors.com, and get a hold of us that way. But just give us a quick call, 770-545-8881.
And you're not going to make people feel bad if they just have a 1-star. I mean, because I think that's probably what deters a lot of people. Say, well, I don't want to be embarrassed in front of you.
Exactly.
Forget about all that.
Yeah.
I mean,
but here's the thing. I mean, if you do have a 1-star retirement plan, I mean, you got to own it, right? That this
Right.
is this is what's currently going on.
Yeah.
And this whole process about giving you clarity. It's not about being delusional and hoping that we think bad things are not going to happen. And that's where people get into problem, is that hope is not a strategy.
Oh, God, I love that. We use that in my company all the time. Hope is not a strategy. Hey, we'll be right back with more 5-Star Retirement. And welcome back to 5-Star Retirement. Chris Monroe alongside Patrick Mueller talking about retirement today and the 5 stars and the pitfalls. And we've covered a lot of ground in this show. But by the way, I owe you 2 of the Social Security. We got to 8, but I want to make sure we said 10.
Yeah.
So the other
do
2
it.
were check for mistakes on your Social Security statement. Don't just assume it's right. That's probably good advice for everybody.
Absolutely.
Assume that the government is right. That's probably not a good strategy.
Exactly. He's actually calculating what you actually paid into it.
Yeah, actually, and now a lot of times they don't send you the paper anymore. You have to go online and actually get it.
That's right. You got to go to socialsecurity.gov
and sign up and go through a bunch of rigmarole. And then ask for a do-over. You may have the right to halt your benefit, pay it back, start collecting benefits. Again, we talked a little bit about that. That may be a way that you can maximize benefits in later years too.
Right. Yeah. A lot of people don't realize when they're like, I'm going to take my Social Security while the getting's good. I'm going to get my money now. Kind of philosophy, which I can. There's some reasoning behind that for sure. But you could be leaving a whole lot of money on the table or being penalized on stuff if you're not clear about that.
Man, the whole penalty thing, it just makes me want to get in, and I want to get in and like let you look at mine. I might still be at 1 star right now, but we're going to fix that. We're going to fix that.
We're going to get it. We're going to get it right.
Hey, let's get to some questions here. We always have some great questions from the audience and from our listeners, and we appreciate these. And we heard from John and Alpharetta. What is the 5-year waiting rule for Roth IRAs?
So when you start a Roth IRA, there's a penalty if you take out your money within the first 5 years. They give you a 10% early withdrawal penalty when you start that up. So you got to make sure you're waiting at least 5 years, but once you're over 59 and a half, that's that other penalty point too. On traditional IRAs and 401ks, if you take your money out before 59 and a half, they give you a penalty too. Once you're after that, then you can take your money out. But so they're still going to tax you on it. But when you're in a Roth IRA, they've got that 5-year rule.
Only the government could come up with something like 59 and a half. I mean, Ford had the 64 and a half Mustang, but now we have 59 and a half and 67 and 3/4 and this stuff is just mind-blowing if you don't have someone to, I forgot about the 59 and a half thing. So thanks, John, for the question. We heard from Melody in Lithia Springs. Can IRAs be held jointly by spouses?
No. So IRAs and 401ks, they're based on life expectancy, and it's based on life expectancy of the person who actually owns it. So you could have spouses that are, you could marry somebody that's 20 years younger than you. And but it's all based on life expectancy. So people think the same thing too when they're inheriting. So when they're inheriting an IRA, a lot of times people think, well, okay, well I can just inherit this IRA and I can put it into my own IRA account. No, that is not the case. You're going to pay a huge tax price by doing that.
So does somebody have to leave that IRA to you as a beneficiary?
Yeah. So if somebody leaves you an IRA, the mistake that people make is thinking they can take that IRA out and put it into their own individual IRA account, and you can't do that. You got to keep it in their name as an inherited IRA. So that way you're not taxed on everything at once. Because if you do that, you're going to get a 1099 at the end of the year for whatever that full IRA amount was. So if somebody inherits like $500,000
right,
in IRA money, that you're going to be taxed on that. It's going to push you up into the highest tax bracket, and then you're going to have close to half of it going to the government.
And then you're going to be calling Patrick crying, and he's going to say, you should have called me.
That's right.
You should have called me.
That's right. We hear it all the time. I wish I'd have met you 5, 10, 15
right?
years ago.
We don't want you to make those mistakes. Vince in Roswell, it says, I'm retired. I have several international and U.S. ETF bond funds, which makes up 70% of my portfolio. Some are not doing so well. Should I remove some or even all from the portfolio right now, even at a loss?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. And here's the thing with bond funds that people need to understand is that if and not to try to get too complex on stuff on the radio, but there's a bubble that's going on right now in the bond market. And what I mean by that is that if you hold a bond directly, which most people don't anymore, so bonds very simply, we're loaning the government or some kind of corporation our money. So it starts off at par value of $1,000. So we can buy them in $1,000 increments. So we buy this bond, and then there's a maturity date. So we give them $1,000. There's going to be a maturity date in the future. Bonds, it can be from 1 year up to 40 plus years, and a bond. And so it's kind of like a CD at a bank.
I was about to say it's very similar to a CD, right?
The longer that you leave it there, the more interest they're hopefully going to pay you in return.
Hopefully
that's the case. So right now, and it's based on interest rates. So when interest rates go down, bond prices go up, so they do really well. But we've had steadily declining interest rates since the early 80s. And now we're at all-time lows. They hit all-time lows about 2 years ago, and now they're only going to be going up. So what happens in these bond funds is that you're not holding your bond directly. So there's no maturity date. So there's no date and time when you're going to get your $1,000 back, which is a problem. So when you're in a bond fund, when we start seeing rising interest rates, you're going to see these bond prices going down, and there is no maturity date. You just gotta pray that interest rates start going back down.
Because
again.
the bond has a NAV or net asset value, just like a stock fund does.
That's right.
Right. So you could, and it would go down, and you could lose money on it just like that. So
that's exactly right. So a lot of times people don't realize how much risk they're taking on those things. But it's not like the safety piece that people think that it is, or that it's portrayed to be in their portfolio.
Well, and I think that's one of those things that just have carried over for years, because I remember that was always the safe investment.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be more aggressive, you invest in stocks. If you want to be more conservative, you invest in bonds. But you can lose money in bonds too. People don't know that.
That's right. You can totally lose money on bonds, and you got to understand it's just a different type of risk. And,
right.
And so it was good up until a couple of years ago, right? But moving forward, we've been looking for bond alternatives because they're not projected to be that great over the next decade.
I think my first passbook savings account when I was like 13 or something that co-signed with my parents for had like a 7% interest rate on it or something. I mean, that was a passbook savings account.
How old are you, man?
I'm old. This was like 1982 or something. But my parents were paying 18% on a mortgage.
Right.
On a mortgage.
Right, exactly.
So it's unbelievable.
It's a different day and time. So so people think that too, right? When they're like, man, it was so much easier. I could just put my money in CDs and get 15% on the CD, and then
wouldn't that be nice?
You're good to go on
today. It's like introducing money market at 1%, and that's huge today. So it's unbelievable the way times change. Lee in Lawrenceville says, I'm retiring from my job in June of 2020, so a little more than a year now. He has money in a 401k and an IRA totaling about $200,000, also a pension and Social Security benefits upcoming. Still have a house payment, some other debts. My income and debt are approximately the same. I'm not looking to invest any of my retirement money. What type of advisor should I see to help my budget and retirement savings and pay off some debt? Is that something you could help him with?
For sure. I'm not sure I understood.
It's a complicated question. Yeah. So
would you mind repeating it real quick?
Yeah.
That would be great.
He's got about $200,000 in savings between a 401k and an IRA. He will have a pension and some Social Security benefits. Doesn't state how much.
Okay.
And he wants to not invest any of the retirement money, which I assume would be Social Security, 401k. What should I do to? What type of advisor should I see to help budget the retirement savings and pay off some debt? It sounds like he wants to try to maintain the retirement savings and try to get rid of some of that debt load.
Sure. Well, yeah, it's good to pay that debt down. But a lot of times, especially a mortgage, a lot of times people think, well, maybe I should, pay off the mortgage early. But if your interest rate's really low, and you're still getting a write-off on that, it could be a good thing to have that in retirement to help offset some of that income that's coming in. But what I heard in there is that he's not wanting to invest his retirement savings, and that can be a problem, right? If you just got a bunch of unemployed money sitting there, and that tells me that this guy is really scared of losing his money.
Right.
So you just got to realize that there's stuff that's out there that's safe and protected from loss, where you can still get your money working for it. Give that money a job and get it working for you, because one of the big problems you're going to have when you're retiring is inflation, and making sure that your money is keeping its staying power over time. That's such a big deal.
And that's why, Lee needs to call you and really go over this. And that's why it's so important, to sit down face to face with you. Got about 3 minutes left in this segment.
Sure.
Nelson in Loganville says he has 2 529 accounts in his name for each of his 2 grandchildren, wants to open another for a 3rd grandchild, and was wondering about the benefits of having the 3rd 529 open by the wife. So she is the owner and the 3rd grandson is the beneficiary. Is that beneficial for the wife's trust account assets?
Yeah, it could be depending on their particular circumstances, because when you're setting up those accounts, the money that you're putting in there, you're getting a deduction off of your taxes, and you're not having to, it can be a good strategy as far as how much you're able to put away each year, and it's not, it could be deferring some income, right? You just got to make sure that those expenses are going to pay for, that those kids are going to use that for their college and tuition expenses.
Oh, I'm sure it's always used for college tuition expenses. There's not one instance where it never has been, right?
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
I'm sure.
Exactly.
New car, vacation to Tahiti.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Patrick, let's tell folks as we wrap up the show, and it's been another great show with you. It's so much advice here and so much
Covering
that
so
we
much.
can't cover in just a 1-hour show. So how do people get a hold of you, set up an appointment, and come in and see you?
Yeah, we always have educational events every single month, whether it's at a local university or whether we're maybe at a nice steakhouse and going over a lot of the stuff you need to be tuning into.
You got my attention there.
But go to our website and you can check out the events that we have coming up at bellaadvisors.com. And then if you're ready to schedule a time to come in for an Allison stress test, well, we're going to do this for you free of charge. And we're going to find out, what does your retirement plan look like? How many stars do you currently have in your retirement plan? And you should have all 5 of them covered. And we'll give you observations on what we see. Here's the current path you're on. Here's the things that you're doing that are good. Here's the stuff you want to be paying attention to, or things that we would be fixing if we were you. And there's no cost or obligation to this. We feel very strongly that everybody should understand where they're at, the current path that they're on, and there shouldn't be any barriers, which I feel like there is in our industry. But you just got to take action. Give us a call. Come in and get some clarity on your situation. Call us here at 770-545-8881. Again, that's 770-545-8881. And schedule your time to come in for a free visit.
Patrick, fantastic. Make sure if you're following us on video or you're watching this on video to share and like this with somebody that you know could use this information. Thank you for joining us for another edition of 5 Star Retirement. Alongside Patrick Mueller, I'm Chris Monroe.